I'm Scott Deering, Solution Principal Architect at Johnson Controls, and I'm here with Nikolai Schultz, Senior Product Manager at Snowflake. And I'm going to hand it over to Nikolai to discuss an introduction to Document AI.
All right.
Here you go.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. And looking forward to spending a bit of time with you and introducing you to Document AI today. So let's dive right in. You may have already seen this today during the keynote, but here is our new and improved Cortex AI stack. And Document AI finds itself there right in the middle. It serves as the layer to transform your bronze raw documents into actionable insights and data in tabular and structured formats within your environment. So it's there amongst other document processing functionalities, as well as generally that silver layer across your stack. So that's how we envision it, and we continue to improve it. And as you heard in the keynote today, we have a new foundational model that is now coming out with high improvements across the board. And we have new APIs coming out as well to help you implement this very simply in your pipelines. Just a sneak peek, and this is more of a use case on the manufacturing side, but this is a example bill of materials. And just last week, we released table extraction as a new form of extracting data from your documents, which allows you to do extraction across your rows to maintain the relationships. So if you have bill of materials, bill of ladings, all these different documents, it's a lot simpler for you to do. And of course, this is the UI, which allows you to do the validation before actually implementing it inside of a production. These are some of the use cases that we find across our manufacturing customers. So of course, this is a source of inspiration that you might want to seek. But of course, you know yourself which documents you have. The ones that you're spending the most amount of time just manually reading are the ones that you should start first with. Have somebody who reads this every single day. Use Document AI to extract information and then validate, okay, this is actually doing my job that much simpler, and I can speed it up much quicker. Today, of course, majority of customers are doing processing manually. And through my conversations, the biggest difficulties that customers fall into are human errors, of course, but also just time lost. You don't want to spend half of your day every single day reading documents and then not actually spend time on valuable insights that allow you to actually make the right decisions. And of course, if you ever want to scale, it's not a very scalable solution to do and continuously do this manually. Even if you go overseas to try and get manual entry specialists, you're not going to continuously get more and more. A prime example, a customer of mine hires up to 5,000 manual entry specialists at this point because they've been doing this for years. And now to automate that, that's going to take a long time. Now, how does Document AI work? With Document AI, essentially, you're able to structure the unstructured. You have a document that you want to put into tabular formats. And it's very, very easy. It's a three-step approach to automate document extraction with Document AI. First, you have someone go in and define what needs to be extracted in natural language. So just questions. What is the name on this document? What is the effective start date of this contract? Then they're going to evaluate. Of course, you've now asked the question. Now you want to see, okay, what's the actual response? Does it match up? And that's why we have the UI. Because anybody who spends their day reading documents, they can now open up the UI and compare. Okay, this is the extraction, this is the original document. All right, it's doing what it's doing, and it should be doing this, and then thumbs up, I'll hand it over to my data engineer. And then, of course, we're plugging that into the pipeline. These are all the formats, of course, all kinds of documents are supported, as well as images, PNG, JPEG, TIFF, all these different formats that you can feed into Document AI. That's a two-step approach in terms of implementing it into the pipeline itself. On the left-hand side, we have the business user who actually does the evaluation, thumbs up, okay, this model is doing what it should be doing. And then they hand it over to the data engineer who does what they do best. They set up the pipeline, and then they might do a task for orchestration or any other trigger that they would prefer. Of course, if anybody was in the keynote and you've heard of OpenFlow, now with OpenFlow, the data engineer can plug this directly as you're ingesting documents from any unstructured source. So directly from SharePoint, Box, G Drive, and all these different sources, you can just set up a connector. As soon as the document comes into Snowflake, you can then meet it with Document AI. Alternatively, if you're on S3 or blob storage, you can process in place. You do not need to move documents at all. You just use the file reference and you're able to process in place. This is an example, just a high-level example of what a pipeline then might look like. So it's end-to-end. Again, it could be that OpenFlow is that first step. It could be that an S3 bucket or blob storage might be that left-hand side. But as you automate this, you have a task that is running on any form of trigger. Let's say every single time you have a new document, or maybe it's a monthly trigger, and then you have a response in JSON format that you materialize into tables, and then post-process, and eventually deliver in a consumable fashion back to your business users. That could be in the form of a dashboard, or as we'll see with the demo, that will be a Streamlit application. All right. And this concludes my part. I'll hand it over back to Scott.
Thank you. Nikolai. Thank you very much. Okay, let's talk about the JCI business case. Factory order forms. I think about a year ago when we were here at Summit, we first heard about Document AI. It was just coming out into pretty active use at that point, getting into GA, and our ears perked up because it's like, wow, we have a lot of unstructured data, a lot of documents that are, they're generated by systems, they're used once, but they're, packed with interesting data that can be useful to us later. And factory order forms is a good example of that. A factory order form is basically a blueprint for a customer order request. So the customer is ordering a chiller. Factory order form has all the details on, all the specs, what's in there. This is the original document in terms of what the original order was. Remember that? I'll come back to it in a second. So we have thousands of them. They exist, and data from these things could be used for reporting, simulation use cases, you name it. Now, unfortunately, all that data is locked in PDF documents, which is not useful to us. So we looked at Document AI to be able to get into those documents and get relevant data out. Now, as I said, these factory order forms are the original blueprint. So if I have my original order form, what was actually discussed with the customer, what did they want to buy? Later on, I have other ERP system data, what did they actually buy? I'd like to combine both of them into one place where I can actually say, oh, wow, we had orders from this customer. This is what they originally wanted. This is how the order changed over time. And then I can actually do some interesting things with that. Unfortunately, without Document AI, I'm in a situation where I have the end state. I don't have the initial state. So we're using Document AI to pull in that data from unstructured sources to allow us to basically close the loop on all the data that we have, get the complete end-to-end picture of what's happening. So solution was basically to process all of our factory order forms through Document AI engine, extract all the fields that we wanted to get out of it, store it actually in our data lake in a Snowflake table. And then we could actually work with it, do our analytics, which is one of the things that we're at Johnson Controls we're always trying to do is more analytics. We have a lot of data, we want insights, we want to take action on it. Okay, so let me just discuss the solution approach. So our solution requirements included 4 main things. One, we had 4,000 documents, factory order forms that we knew, too many to go through manually, but that's what we started with. We had 32 unique fields within each of these documents. They had product SKUs, customer names and addresses, the part name, part number, descriptions, you name it. And then what we had to do is get the data out with accuracy. And that was a key requirement. We had to have a threshold of at least 80% accuracy of the model. I think in the earlier versions we had of Document AI, when we were trying to do this, it was hard to get high accuracy out of it. Lots of evolution. We were working with Snowflake, over a series of months to say, hey, we're having problems here, we're having problems there, and they came in, gave us a lot of assistance to that. So we actually got to a point where we could say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to get the data out, but it has to be, at least 80% of it has to be accurate. And then scale. This solution had to scale because we have thousands of documents. This particular use case has 404K. There are a lot more than that. So whatever solution we have, we want it to be reusable, but also scalable so that we could point at another set of documents, do the same thing. So just a peek behind the curtain for our reference architecture. As you can see, we have a lot of ERP system data already coming into our data lake. We have, basically we're in Azure shop. That data is coming into our Snowflake environment, and then we're applying AI/ML, we're applying a whole bunch of analytics on top of that. So this is showing primarily our structured data coming in. What we're trying to do in terms of using Document AI is actually expand it to include unstructured data as well and close that loop. So we have, not only, what actually happened in the ERP system, but what happened in maybe other applications where the only thing we have as an output is a PDF document. Okay, let's talk about the Document AI solution architecture that we deployed. We had Snowflake on the internal stage. We basically streamed that data through and through a pre-processing step. Now let me just pause there for a second and cover the data model itself. We had a Document AI model that we trained on a series of documents. Documents had a lot of variety to them. Some were 10 pages, some were like 100 pages, different formats, different sizes. Lots of variety there. So we had to get a decent number of documents, train the model, and get the model to understand what do I want? What 32 fields do I want and where are they likely to be? After the model was trained and we tested it, then we took the big chunk of all the documents and then took it through pre-processing, which would check and say, okay, what's your format? Are there any issues here? Any potential problems that are going to cause a problem with data extraction? Highlight those. Once all the data was actually extracted out of each of the PDF documents, then we moved into data capture, where we're actually pulling it out, we're doing our transformations, we're doing our validations, and all of our checks. Once validation is done, then we could actually use a Streamlit app to monitor the process and allow our data owners to go in and actually check when there are issues. If something, I'll show you in the demo, but if something failed pre-processing, we have a bucket for it. If something failed validation, we have a bucket for it, and our owners can go and check and say, okay, I'm going to either modify the document, or I'm going to modify the model and how it looks at the document to account for an exception, to account for something that's not what we originally trained. Now, I should say, one thing that's key for unstructured data is really the variety of it. You can have a factory order form for one facility, but then we have multiple facilities. Everyone has their little idiosyncrasies, little differences, so it's important to have that validation step and give the data owners the capability to say, okay, for my facility, this is where the data is, this is how it needs to be pulled out. So that was part of the reason we had the Streamlit app, to give us that visibility and give us a bit of control over it. Okay, just to sum up the solution approach, we defined our overall workflow and our ingestion, trained our LLM model to be able to recognize the documents as they came through, designed our data extraction process, designed our review and reprocess process, which I'm actually going to dive into that a bit. It's fine for us to be able to extract the data out, but what we wanted to have was a process for us to be able to resubmit documents. So, okay, we looked at the document, okay, not exactly what we expected, got to tweak the model, but I don't want to have to go all the way back to the beginning just to do this again. So we actually had a review process to allow us to resubmit stuff kind of more into the middle of the process to keep things moving. And then we'd have a validation process where we're going to look at all the data prior to actually loading in the tables. Now, some of the keys here, it's a scalable solution to deal with hundreds, thousands of documents. It's repeatable, so we can point it at different repositories of data, different types of documents. It's flexible, so we can have a variety of formats, variety of document types, variety of links, and the key one for us, solution accuracy above a defined threshold. We definitely needed to make sure, okay, when this data comes in, it's got to be accurate. Okay, so let's talk about results. So we processed, in our solution, we processed 4,381 documents. We had 32 unique fields that were being extracted from all of the factory order forms and then stored in a table. We had basically 92% of all those fields came through accurately with no issues. And there was another 80% that required some additional training and tweaking, and then we got those in as well. So 92%, well above 80. Scalable. This solution was actually able to go through all 4,300 documents. Total load time took about 41 hours. And again, these are some big documents, but it cranked through and got it done. So now we have it available to do, we can put Power BI reports on top of it. We have the data in the Snowflake tables, so we can do all the analytics that we want. It's a one-time load, and we're done. Okay, just to give you an example, this is some of the unique fields that we captured from our factory order forms. It's, contract order number, order place date, basically some of the date fields and some of the order numbers and other critical things actually would drive the accuracy accounts. I'll show you that in the demo. But we're able to pull all this useful information. It's in the documents. We want it. We want to be able to, again, close the loop with all the other ERP data. And sometimes we would have ERP data that doesn't have this in it. So this allows us, again, to have that full picture of what was happening with the orders from start to finish. Okay, let's do the demo. And this is a summary page, and then I'll move into the actual recording of the demo. What you'll see here is our Streamlit app. This is the live view of it. Some main things I just want to point out. Start from the left. That's the total count of all the documents that we're starting with. That's basically on the far left, in the far left yellow box is everything that's in the repository. You'll see how we're going to process all that stuff. We're going to pre-process it, check it, and then move that to an extraction process, and from there, validate it and store it. So this view allows us to actually check, the overall process of the load, how it's going, and then highlight if there's any issues that need to be addressed. Okay, this is the high wire part of the presentation. Video.
This is a demo of our actionable controls. You can see this is our live view Streamlit app showing our overall process status end to end. Now, we started with over 4,300 documents that will be processed, all of our factory forms. As you can see here, our first step is ingestion of all the documents. We'll go through all the documents as they appear in storage, and we will be ingesting those in. Now, the first step after ingestion will be pre-processing. So we'll be doing a check on their formatting, checking to see, make sure that we have any, we can highlight any issues that we can see initially in that first look at all the documents coming in. Anything that looks like it will have an issue, we'll send to a manual review bucket where our users can check. Anything that passes pre-processing will then get queued up for the extraction stage, and then we'll start to extract the documents out. There's a validation step here just to make sure that the data that's coming out is matching our threshold values. Anything that's not passing that gets into the validation bucket. Anything that passes that will then go into our Snowflake table storage. You can see here, we start at this point in the process, we're at 768 total documents. If I go into the dashboard and just force it to refresh, you'll see that we are now up to 865 total documents being processed, and this will continue until we've gone through all 4,300 documents.
Okay, so let's move on. So a few hours later, I'll go into part 2.
Okay, we're back a little later in the process. You can see that out of the 4,380 total docs, we've gone through the pre-processing step. All the documents are there. None of it need to be going through manual review. And then we've actually started the extraction process with 100 documents extracted. Now, as the process goes through, we'll go through all 4,300 documents. If anything fails, validation will go into the validation bucket, and everything else will go into the validated bucket, and then from there go into the Snowflake tables. And if you want to see from a dashboard perspective, we'll have a running track of all, what our total count is of what's been processed so far as we go through all 4,300 documents.
Okay, part 3. Again, a few hours later. Whoop.
At this point, we are at step number 2 in the process, which is the extraction of documents. 4,300 documents have been pre-processed, and now they're available to move into data extraction, where the extracted values will be stored as JSON into a table. Now, if we look at the dashboard progress, you can see overall what has been processed and what is in progress at this point. And if we go back to the live view, we can see that 1,500 documents have gone through the extraction process, and it'll continue to chug through the total list. Now, I wanted to point out that we have 3 documents that were sent for manual review. They can be flagged for a formatting issue or a length issue, but we basically put them into a manual review bucket. This will allow the owners to take a look at each individual document and see what the issue is. They can correct it, make a change, or modify it, and split the documents up if it's too long, and then resubmit it back into the process. So it goes back in the queue, and then that will get pre-processed again, and then go back into the extraction process. So this ensures that we overall have clean documents that are coming through. So we're not hitting the extraction process with documents that don't pass muster.
Okay, last part.
At this point, we're going to cover the validation step. Now, as you can see, we have about 2,100 documents that are already extracted. Once every document's been extracted, they'll go through our validation process. Basically, it'll be flattened. The JSON data will be flattened into tabular forms, and then we'll validate each field against the predefined threshold per field to make sure we have data quality. Now, certain fields don't meet the required confidence score. They're flagged for review. And just to talk about the confidence scores, let's talk about score thresholds. Load that. As you can see, based off the model and based off the field, we have certain confidence scores that are defined. Now, you can have a higher score for those fields that are more important and that are more likely to drive accuracy. You could have lower scores for other fields where you want to make sure it's above a certain level of quality. But again, there will be certain fields that will probably drive overall data quality. Now, there's a model accuracy score that also measures the model's confidence that its answer to each given question is correct. That's important to have those set. And each extracted field is assigned an important score, ensuring that low confidence extractions are flagged for review. Now, back to the live view. As you can see, documents that are below the threshold, they'll be placed in the validation fail bucket for review to assess the variance against threshold value. Take a look at the documents, see exactly why they fail. And this can occur if the document is corrupted or if there's an issue with the document type. Now, documents that pass the validation will be moved to the validation pass bucket, and then they'll be loaded into Snowflake tables and analytics.
Okay. All right. So wanted to just show this. This is the total after effect. After we've actually loaded things into Snowflake tables, we can, run whatever queries we want it. It's in Snowflake, we're good to go. And then all the data is there, and we can put whatever we want on top of it. We can put a chatbot, we can do some AIML based on that data. And this is the target end state we were looking for, was let's get the data out of the unstructured documents into a place where we can actually work with it and combine it with other data that we have available. So this worked out quite well. Okay. So why do we do this, and what kind of benefits do we have for JCI? I'll highlight at least a few of these. One is one of the things to start with, the POC itself completed in about 12 weeks. And it wasn't the easiest POC. We had a lot of things we had to work through from a model perspective, but we were able to get it done in a relatively short amount of time. It did allow us to have the type of accuracy and speed and scalability we were looking for. Major targets, major requirements, we were able to do that. And I think that reusable architecture is a theme that we've been working with over the past couple of years. We just didn't want to build something to just show it could work. We wanted to build something we could reuse for something else. So we now have an infrastructure in place. We can actually change the repository. Don't really have to change much else aside from the model itself. The model that we train on the new documents, but we have all the other infrastructure and can process, whole other sets of, it could be factory orders, it could be whatever other documents that we have where that data is locked inside. I think just one metaphor when I think about this, and I'm a big Discovery Channel fan. I love the Gold Rush show, and I just love the idea that, they go out in the middle of nowhere where they know there's rock, but they know there's gold, and they set up huge machines, because they could go out with a pickaxe and just chip away at it, chip away at it, chip away at it, and you'll get a little bit of gold. Key thing is, if you want to do it to scale, you need a big machine. You need a process that's actually going to troll through all these documents, all this data, and come out with things that are actually valuable to you. And that was a key benefit to us, was now we have a big machine, we can actually set it up and just start passing documents through it. But we also have the capability to say, oh, these documents are accurate, and we can make tweaks to it to make sure that it's accurate to the level that we need it. We can change those thresholds. There may be some documents where the threshold's down at 70. There may be some documents like, no, it's got to be 99%, or I don't want it. And so we have the capability to do that. We can tweak the model and work with it. So those are some of the main benefits that we got out of this from JCI. Looking forward to a lot of other use cases where we're able to apply the infrastructure and get going with it.